talk a little bit more about the key building blocks of a stellar PMO office. Now, understanding how to build out a PMO and how to help instill the discipline across campus in various areas. Now, there's a few different facets underneath this is, what is your staffing and organizational structure when you build that PMO? What is the cross-functional buy-in and the education needs of that department? And last but not least is, how do you continue holding that torch, prevent atrophy of the group, and encourage the use of technology to make PMO work?
Well, if you leave here today with one bit of advice from me at least, that is, if you haven't established a project management office, please do so. Start now, start slowly. If you're already doing it, continue to invest in it. As a CIO, I sleep better at night knowing that I have a project management team in place and we have a project portfolio and we have that going. So that's a key takeaway. It's worth it. We started our journey at Bridgewater State University about 4 years ago. The other bit of advice is start slowly. We grew year over year. We started with a single project manager. We started by showing the value of project management and bringing the value of project management to bear, one project at a time. Pulling back from the functional directors, for example, it wasn't easy. They wanted to keep project managing because there's a certain amount of pride and ownership of things, even though it wasn't their full-time job anyway. We built it over time. I think the secret of building a stellar PMO is to do it slowly, to invest in PMP certification. It's definitely beneficial to have the right training and investment in professional development and invest in it. And I'm kind of, proud to say, too, that if you invest in project management, it pays dividends. We're now at a point of maturation where we're having elevated conversations with the president and our cabinet about institutional project management. It's like now that IT has our arms around project management, we continue to try to mature it as well. We're talking about what about all the institutional projects that really are like business process improvement. They have very little to do with technology, but they might benefit from project management as well. And one last thing I must say is that you need to have a solid project and portfolio management platform to use as well, because that's where you keep all your project artifacts, your project charters, and everything else you need. It's just, and have a passion, like you said. The last thing I have to say about the passion is be a champion. Be a champion of project management. Somebody has to be a champion, and if no one's a champion, it's not going to go anywhere. Don't be afraid to be a champion. I've only been in this seat for about 2.5 years, but we started this process to project management from the middle up. You can do it from the middle up. You don't have to be the top down, for example. So that's just kind of my perspective.
Thank you. Ken, how do you weigh on building the PMO?
So interesting enough, from my former organization, I had the opportunity to, we had certain processes and procedures in place around project management, but no real formal project management office. So I had the privilege of beginning to put that together. And one of the first things I did was hire a director, who happens to be in the audience here today, Jamil Baig. Have a conversation with him. He's really good. It was hiring somebody who had the talent to have that institutional, that enterprise project management view, but to be able to start small and to understand that we had to develop it internally. But the number one thing we decided on that was most important was education of the institution and education of our own people. We had to educate the institution, first of all, on how to scope a project and what was their business requirements. I think that was one of our biggest challenges, was helping to learn what those business requirements were for the organization so we could properly scope the project and become successful. Project creep scope creep is our biggest issue, and we needed to get a handle on that. But project education around project management as well. Even with the staffs that we can have and afford, we still can't supply all the project management needs for an organization, especially if you go to an enterprise version. So there's certain champions within the organization that you can bring to that level. And so that was our biggest focus. Also putting some of the processes and procedures in place around governance. Having a really good governance with institutional buy-in from the executive level down helped us make sure we were only working on the things that we're supposed to be working on as an organization. And as was mentioned, Team Dynamics is a great tool in building that workflow that made sense to the organization, and so that the executives who have very little time to do these kinds of things could very easily have their input into the governance process. So,
How about you, Tom? Sorry, go ahead, Param.
I'll agree. I think one of the things that, so we have a project management office. We have 2 staff full-time that are dedicated to it. But I think the 2 things that can really help, especially in higher education, if you think about it, the most important thing as you're kind of working with faculty, staff, and students is process, right? How the decisions are made. I mean, that, from our perspective, that even though somebody doesn't like the decision, as long as they follow the process, I think they'll go along. But if you make a decision even if they like it and you didn't follow the process, good luck with that. So I think the PMO has really kind of helped us organizationally to make sure that we're following the process, the decision process, as moving through the different iterations of a project. And second, I totally agree with Ken. It's made our governance extremely strong. Because now that we have visibility into everything that we're working on at different levels, and we kind of then working with our governance committees, both on the academic side and the administrative side, with the project portfolio, with the visibility we did not have before we had the team dynamics in place. But now we do. So I think that really kind of, at the institutional level, also helps make a decision of, can we take on these 7 other things that we're discussing, or should we kind of make sure that we're focusing on what's in front of us and maybe only take 2 or 3 of those on. So I think that's a great point that you raised about the governance.
Thomas, how do you weigh in on that one?
Yeah.
Well, PMO is such a big deal. You know, if you've been in one organization for a long time, I think sometimes it can be a good thing or a bad thing. It depends on the organizational culture. I know for myself, every place I've been has been, no matter whether it's higher ed or another industry, it's been a very different experience. And I've tried to look at all those different experiences and draw some similarities between them. And I'd say the following would be the key areas I would draw out. One, which has already been stated, which is to look at, you have to have some kind of a process. You have to have a tool. Without that, you just can't track what you need to track. You need to have a tie-in or a linkage between the PMO and the governance process. Thirdly, I think you need to have a good feel for the culture, and that's where the level of education and how you teach and tutor people along the way. And I always say 2 of the groups that are the most, need to be the most enthusiastic, passionate, and excited people are the help desk and the project management. They are out and about, and they pretty much are the faces of IT. So I think when I look toward developing that, I look for the skill sets, I look for the collaboration, and I look for the tie-in to the culture. Those are probably the key things.